I don't even believe in mission or purpose because I even think that creates restriction through the idea of putting expectations or comparing yourself to someone or thinking, I have to do more or I'm not doing enough. I think the aspect of existing for the sake of love, because of joy, for the sake of joy, because of healing, for the sake of healing, is more of an understanding of being versus the idea that I have to do something
Right.
in order to create change.
Right. Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and blessings. And for those who have been watching Take Back Your Mind, welcome back to the podcast, Take Back Your Mind. I am Michael Beckwith, your host. In the studio today, I will have Shaman Durek. At this moment, we have the life question of the week. Zaid says, what is the definition of divine masculine energy? And how can I awaken it within me? I've been on a spiritual journey since 2018. A prominent aspect of my journey involves addressing challenges around forming relationships with women and fostering meaningful friendships. Growing up, my dad was passive and emotionally unavailable, which I feel has left me unfamiliar with the traits of healthy masculine energy, particularly in social interactions. And due to my mother's overprotectiveness, my childhood was marked by a sense of isolation, leading to difficulties in connecting with other children. This feeling of loneliness has persisted throughout my life. Recently, while meditating, I had an insight that harnessing and harmonizing the divine masculine and divine feminine energies within me could potentially facilitate the healing I seek and is vital for repairing my relationships and attracting the kind of feminine partner I genuinely desire in my romantic journey. However, I want to make sure that as I awaken this energy, I don't mistake it for the non-spiritual, materialistic, action-based definitions of masculine energy. I would appreciate your insight on this. Zaid, in your question, you kind of are speaking to your answers, because you're coming to an understanding about the masculine energy is not the materialistic, totally action-based, manipulative kind of energy that, or hyper-masculinity that people have sometimes curated into, that's the masculine. Hyper-masculine, taking control. Oh, the other word would be dominating over people. The true masculine energy, and we try to train our young people in their awareness, is not domination, but more of a protective energy. The true masculine is a protection of the feminine, a protection of the environment, a protection of the community. It's not dominating someone else. That's hyper-masculinity. You see that sometimes in sports, the hyper-masculine, the ego running amok. The true masculine, you're also embracing the balance between the masculine and the feminine. So if you're dealing with the true masculine of a protective energy and a creative energy, an energy of manifestation, along with the feminine energy, which is allowing, which is letting, which is yielding, which is surrendering and nurturing. When you bring both of those together, then you have a spiritual being and a human incarnation that's not making things happen by provocation, by seduction, by intimidation. But things are coming into manifestation by allowing the creative energy to flow through creativity, flow through generosity, flow through protection, flow. It's a whole different frequency. And so you have learned through your parents what you don't want. Overprotectedness, what you don't want. Passivity, what you don't want. Emotionally unavailable. You know about that. So now you're bringing your attention to being available emotionally. not passive. Please understand that surrender is not passive. People mistake that. Surrender is a choice to allow an energy to flow through you. That's a positive. That's an affirmative movement, you see. So when you combine the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine, you have a whole being, you see. Everyone has both energies within them. Eventually, you realize that this presence that's never an absence is even beyond gender, but contains the full spectrum of what we would call masculine and feminine in a magnificently balanced way. I hope this assists you, but obviously it feels to me that you've been assisted greatly in your own meditation practice, where your insight was, I have to heal this. That which said to you, I have to heal this, is your answer. That's the spirit within you coming forth to express so that you're whole and you're balanced in a male body, balanced masculine and feminine energies. You're on the right path. Just don't stop. Blessings to you, Zaid. Peace and richest blessings to everyone, and welcome back to Take Back Your Mind, the podcast that is about actually taking back your mind, that you can have a sovereignty over your attention so that you can no longer be hijacked by the whirl of effects, circumstances, conditions, situations, people, places, and things. But you can open yourself up and allow yourself to be in tune with that sacred intelligence, that divine wisdom that is intrinsic to you. As I said earlier, I have with me today in person Shaman Durek. Let me give you a little rundown. Shaman Durek is a 6th generation shaman. He's author of the bestseller, Spirit Hacking, Shamanic Keys to Reclaim Your Personal Power, Transform Yourself and Light Up the World. And he's a visionary, and you know I like this, of the now age. Through his powerful ancient teachings, Durek helps us to demystify spirituality, making it attainable and understandable for mainstream audiences, and that's extremely necessary at this time in human history. Shaman Durek's teachings have impacted thousands of people, including public figures like Nina Dobrev, Gwyneth Paltrow, Dave Asprey. He's had a reoccurring role, check this out, on CBS, The Doctors, where he aided guests in overcoming challenges impacting the connection between their emotional and physical well-being. His work has been featured in People magazine, Elle, LA Times, the New York Times, among others. He's featured on Netflix's Bling Empire. You get around, my brother.
Not as much as you.
His online, check this out, his online Shaman School and widely popular Healing Temple and Ancient Wisdom Today podcast are instrumental in helping people tap into their personal power and unlocking negative patterns that prevent them from reaching optimal human performance, because that's very important. You don't want to leave your human incarnation without tapping into and activating your potential. Don't waste your potential. This is Shaman Durek. Thank you for being here in person.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm here for God, to serve, to be here.
Thank you. Being here for God is actually a part of the mission statement of Agape. Simply, we are here for God.
Yeah. I've always believed that since I was young, and I always believe that being everything I do has to be God-inspired. So there's nothing that I'll do unless I pray about it and fast and meditate and really go into a space of like, is this in alignment to serving as a great ambassador of love?
Absolutely. Tell the people a little bit about your personal journey.
Absolutely. So, I was born in a family that's roots comes from, my father was born in Nolens, but his family roots comes from Africa, from Nigeria and West Africa, from the Yoruban tribe. And my great-great-grandmother and grandmother were medicine women, and her father before her, and so on and so on. And my father, it could have been my father, but my dad did it, and then he walked away from it because of my grandfather. So I had both sides of my family. I had the more shamanic, more African knowledge side, which is where deep in roots and understanding the way of connecting with nature and spirit and really being a devotion. And then I had the religious side, which was my grandfather, who was Catholic at one point because of hiding. They had to hide. At the time, my dad was born in the 20s, so they had to hide a lot of their spiritual practices because of how times were.
Right, persecution.
Yeah, persecution. And so my grandfather decided to become Catholic, and then became a Seventh-day Adventist minister. So I spent my life learning from my aunts and my grandmother about our roots and who I was, because I started at a very young age having gifts that the family saw. So gifts that my grandmother actually spoke about, and my great-grandmother spoke about, that would come about in the future. And one of those gifts were I would hear spirits talking to me. I would know how people felt. I could feel and understand in the imbalance between love and when people were out of that space. And so my aunts really wanted to start training me and getting me prepared to really harness those gifts and really to nurture those gifts. But one of my aunts, she was kind of balancing she's my godmother and she is my aunt, but she's also a world famous opera singer. So it was kind of like a balance between, spending time with her, spending time with my other aunts, and then having my grandfather make me sit in church and read the Bible over and over and over again. And what it did, it gave me perspective. And in the perspective that I found, which I found fascinating, was that every time I went into myself and I asked God, it was this clarity of not this condemnation and hell, because I couldn't understand how love could be present,
right,
and hell and condemnation and this could,
where did that come from?
Yeah, like how could that exist with love being present?
Right.
So I knew there was something off, and so I knew that I had to really understand more. So I moved to Israel, and I moved in with a religious family in Israel, and I went to synagogue and studied the Torah, the Talmud, learned how to speak Hebrew, and learned how to integrate this knowledge where supposedly the Bible comes from, right? I went to the places where it was supposedly Bethlehem, and it's not Bethlehem anymore, Nazareth, and went to the Wailing Wall. And when I was at the Wailing Wall, I asked God, who and what are you? And literally I started shaking, my hands were shaking, and I saw this light and I heard this voice, and it said, I am everything and all. And I don't know, start crying. And in that moment, I knew that I'm here to why I'm born in this family and why I have these two juxtapositions going on in my family as far as Christianity or Seventh-day Adventist, because that's a whole nother thing,
right?
With keeping the Shabbat and all that. And then, shamanism. And it was that fine point of realizing that God is in everything, in everywhere. And it is the love that is present in the voice that speaks to me, in the cloud that I look at, in the sun that shines on me, and everything. And so any form of separation, hate, divide, or anything is people not realizing God that is in them, that is them. So when I see a homeless person on the street, I don't see a homeless person, I see myself.
Right.
And
I see the presence of God as that person. I see
the presence of God as that person. And so I say, so of course I want to be there for them.
Yes.
Right? So there is no boundaries between how my love and the capacity of my love can be. And so I decided that I was going to start studying people's culture. So I moved to Palestine, then I went to Egypt, and then I was in Turkey, studied and went to get into the Quran and really studied the Quran and got really deep in going into their way of being and understanding and looking at this, and then getting into Tibetanism and getting into Buddhism and getting the Gohanzen and chanting Nameho Renge Kyo. And a lot of my friends were like, why are you doing all these different things? Why are you jumping? Why are you going and shaving your head and going in Hate Street in San Francisco and singing Hare Krishna and reading the Bhagavad Gita? Why are you doing this? And I said, I'm doing this because I want to understand people.
Yes.
And that's how Shaman Durek came about.
It's interesting because understanding is the antidote to judgment. When someone judges somebody else, another religion, culture, ethnicity, whatever the case may be, their consciousness shrinks to where their judgment is. So instead of judging, spiritual folks that are waking up go to trying to understand other people, which is an antidote to judgment. And you live judgment free.
Yes.
You get to see, as you're describing, you get to see the presence of love and beauty, God, intelligence, in all these various ways. And then you get to appreciate all the ways that God is expressing. This is the birth of Shaman Durek. You use the word love, and I think it's extremely important because, I mean, obviously love is the most powerful presence on the planet.
Absolutely.
There's nothing vibrating higher than the vibration of love.
Yes, I'll share.
And when a person shrinks to hate, they have no idea that their mind has been hijacked.
That's right.
That they're being controlled by forces that would love to divide and conquer people, even if they think they're right.
Yes.
So the space that you're living from, which is love, which is inclusivity, which is we're all one, is really the next stage of our evolution as a species.
Yes.
So you teach people how to observe consciousness. Break that down for us a little bit.
So my whole understanding, so from the shamanic point of view, I'm known as a spirit shaman. There's different types of shamans in the world. There's earth shamans that deal with plant medicines and do more earth and touch the body and things like that. And then there's water shamans who do more water ceremonies like in Bali and Indonesia and so forth. And then the air shamans are the ones who speak in tongues or do guttural sounds or play with music and instruments. And then there is the spirit shamans. And spirit shamans are life, how would I say? I don't say life experience, but I to me, everything to me is an opening, is a blossoming of discovery, of the understanding of how the spirit world operates and how it operates with human beings, of all sentient beings, all understandings of the way that even just a word coming out of your mouth is code. And so when people talk, I tell them we're code writers. You're writing code through the divinity of your being, and either that code is to empower, to energize, to lift, to expand, to create new worlds, new dimensions, and all of these things, or you're writing it to desecrate and to destruct and to dismantle. And wouldn't it be greater to write the code that re-energizes and expands and so forth? So that's a part of it. And then the other part is holding space for intelligence, for people's intelligence, where they are in their intelligence. Like if I'm spending time with very devout Muslim men and they only believe in one thing, I'm not to go in there and say, you're wrong and this is this and this is that. I don't do that.
That would be trespassing.
Yes, that's trespassing. I love that. That's great. That's true. Spiritual trespassing. That's fantastic. I love that. So it's holding space to understand them from a place of love, and then to dynamically share with them love and expressions of love from not the understanding of separation or divide, but from the understanding of inclusion and unity and community, and in a way that they can understand, you know? And that's why I had to study so many people's way of thinking, because I need to be able to speak in the way that they can understand.
Yes.
And so for me, it's about being able to see that there's a shaman living in every person.
Yes. Because you say be your own damn guru.
Yes.
That's one of the things.
Yes.
Yeah. This is powerful. So going back to the word that comes out of your mouth, it can be a misspell, or it could be a gospel.
Yes.
It can be something that awakens,
or
something that contracts.
Absolutely.
So we have to be mindful, conscious of what comes out of our mouth.
Absolutely.
Can't just be saying anything.
No.
You know, and you see a lot of individuals online and on social media just spouting all kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't know what that
hate,
is.
and they have no understanding that what they're putting out, they have the first taste of it.
That's right.
It comes back to them.
Yes.
So they think they're maybe putting somebody down over there, but the way you're describing reality, there is no over there.
Yeah,
it's all here.
It's all here.
So you get a direct experience of yourself.
Yes.
That you projected onto somebody else.
Yes, Ashe.
So as a spirit shaman, you're very conscious about what you say.
Yes.
And you're very conscious that even your silence speaks volumes.
That's correct.
Yeah. So tell us about, superhuman. And even, I think you talk about this becoming superhuman in times of crisis. I mean, we're living in a crisis right now, birth of a whole other age. There's all manner of intensity going on in the world. I believe, you believe, in terms of spirit hacking, that this is actually a time to birth ourselves.
That's
as
correct.
Superhuman. So
that's right.
Break that down for us a little bit.
So when I look at the understanding of the evolution of our species, right, there's the understanding of the contract and resistance that humans create for themselves to find expansion. So they believe they need duality in order to find expansion, which I find fascinating. However, when you are actually understanding that deep devotion to God, that deep presence of that love that is ever unfolding, it's always there, it's never absent, it's always present, and you begin to look from that place and speak from that place, that is where I see humanity coming together. And so I don't see this time as a time of crisis. I see this time as an awakening.
Yes.
That is helping people to refine. And I use that word a lot, to refine themselves, because I don't believe, some people say, oh, that lost soul. I say, oh, no. God loves eternally. Time is irrelevant. That being that you see, that you call loss, will one day understand the divinity of their own being.
Right.
But it may take some time.
Right.
So for me, it's about being able to be an infusion of love into the world, to show people how they can infuse love into the world, not from the place where I have to fight the system. All I have to do is reflect what is possible through me, and other people reflect love through them. And the system itself will no longer cease, because there is no way that it can continue, because of the energy is no longer supporting duality.
Yes.
And when duality is minimized on our planet, I do believe that the gates of divinity will open and pour into the minds and hearts of people, and be able to show them that this thing that everyone talks about, I hear it very a lot in the spiritual communities, ascension this, ascension that, everyone wants to ascend. But what I keep telling people in that spiritual community is, as long as you see yourself as an individual being and not as everyone and all, as God as one, going back to that one love theory, the consciousness of humanity is not held within the spectrum of us versus them, or you, me versus these people, those people over there, but more from the understanding of, we are not healed. I'm not healed. No one is healed until we're all healed. This is a family journey, not a singular, I'm on this mission. And I don't even believe in mission or purpose, because I even think that creates restriction through the idea of putting expectations or comparing yourself to someone, or thinking I have to do more, or I'm not doing enough. I think the aspect of existing for the sake of love, because of joy, for the sake of joy, because of healing, for the sake of healing, is more of an understanding of being, versus the idea that I have to do something in order to create change.
You've said a lot just there. I mean, you broke down a whole lot of teachings, and one of the primary powerful teaching is that it's not be against something. That's because you keep something alive, and you have a relationship with what you're against. And so you're describing, what are we for?
Yes.
You're describing what is our life about,
yes.
And to place your attention on what you are about, what you're living for, what you're growing into. So then the energy of creating what you don't want stops. So if something is out of alignment and you're not fighting against it, as you said, it begins to lose power because we're not giving it any attention.
Exactly.
So our attention, as the old saying goes, our energy flows where our attention goes and vice versa.
Yeah.
So we begin to build something rather than to tear something down.
Yes.
In this particular moment, there was something trying to happen. It's difficult to describe because it's in the unknown, unknown to the ego.
Yeah.
But as we're living in that frequency, then we give birth to something new, something more powerful, something more beautiful. That's really our intrinsic nature.
Yes.
So in terms of being a spirit shaman, you're curating the word, the vibration, the frequency of the eternal, according to the uniqueness of you.
Yes.
But then you get to be an inspiration vibrationally to other people to do the same thing.
Yes. And adding also too, as a spirit shaman, I'm here to walk the worlds of many worlds. So when people go, oh, this demon, this dark being, this entity, this, I say, okay, if you want to put a costume on it and you want to make it all spooky and scary like a Hollywood film, and that's what works for you, so you can feel superior or have some kind of duality thing that's been ingrained in you from this God versus devil concept, then let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's look at it as a spirit that hasn't recognized its capacity to receive love, or that it's capable of love.
Yeah.
And it comes to you because it finds something in you that is similar to something it is holding on to. And through your divinity, you have the ability to ascend that spirit back into the light by your willingness to know the difference. So when a voice comes in your head that says, you're an idiot, you're that's not you.
Right.
It's like I say to people all the time, people say to me, oh, what do you think about the press? They write all these horrible things about you. I'm like, well, they're not talking about me.
Right.
So, I mean, it's fine. They're talking about someone else,
But what you're describing is that there's a particular kind of hell that people live in, and that hell is an over-concerned about what other people are thinking about it.
Yes, that's
hell.
like the fundamental.
That's the fundamental hell.
That's the fundamental hell.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that people put so much emphasis on, because what they don't realize is that the idea of you believing that someone is thinking something about you is you thinking of that about yourself.
Right.
So how do we bring in that essence? Because I always believe that when I hear something in my head that tells me, oh, you're beautiful, you're powerful, you're amazing, I know that's God speaking to me.
Yes,
and when someone says to me, oh, Durek, I love you, you're so amazing, and I tell that person, I want to stop for a moment and just acknowledge what you just said to yourself.
Right.
Because what you see in me is what you're seeing in yourself. And so that's why when someone says something negative to me, I simply say to them, that's so funny that you think that, because you're a beautiful being who's capable of immense things, and you're always attracting prosperity, and you're always bringing in beautiful things. And then my friends go, oh my God, I can never share with you bad news because you just shift me right back into who I'm supposed to be. I said, I don't shift you.
Right.
You shift you.
Right.
And I think that's the thing when I see healers and I see this whole regime of shamans everywhere giving ayahuasca, doing this, and everyone's taking this pride of, I healed this person. And I'm like, no,
that's interesting. I was sharing something very similar. No one can heal someone else.
Yes.
The only thing that heals is illuminated truth. That's what heals. It's the truth that makes you free.
Boom. Exactly.
And so if you're vibrating at the level of truth and it comes out of your mouth, it's not you healing them. It's actually the truth that's vibrating within that being, and then suddenly they wake up. It's the truth that heals.
Yes.
And I was talking about this to a teacher, that you can't really change your students. She says, no, I teach every day and I change students. I said, well, it's not you. It's the truth in you that's touching that within the student, and then they wake up.
Yes.
That keeps us humble, not negatively humble, but just more available, more surrendered.
Yes.
Which is a positive affirmation. It's a willingness to allow something to happen. That's what it is. And then the truth makes us free, not another person. Now tell us, what is spirit hacking?
So through all of the things that I have taken on and learned about the different ways that people use spirituality, from chanting to the different cultures and so forth, what I figured out is that the connection of consciousness is not separate from us. It's not something we have to achieve to get to. Mm-hmm. So what spirit hacking is that it's the understanding that as above, so below, the consciousness of the divinity of that which you in connect with is already there. So you can speak directly to your mind, directly to your emotions, directly to your spirit, directly to your body, and you can hack without having to do all of these things to get to this place where you can actually get there just like that. And so I've taken all of the ancient knowledges that I've been exposed to and dialed it down to something that is so simple and easy to access that it literally, people go, I had no idea that I could Because I'll give you a perfect example. I'll just give you a perfect example. So, people will go and they'll study Reiki, okay?
Right,
And then they learn the symbols, shokure, say Heiki, all these different things. So I say to them, well, first, before you study Reiki, first let's get in touch with the healer within you that is the creator, that is capable of going against the narrative that the other person has. So if you go into healing just by giving someone energy, then you're just giving someone energy. But if you really want to see the miracle come through, you have to connect to that inner healer in you that is God's divine light that says whatever you believe that is outside of love and outside of these things is not it's not truth.
Right.
And so if you can do Reiki and hold the truth of that person's narrative that they hold, like for instance, when I go into hospitals, I tell people, like one woman was crying over her father's, and he was in hospital, and I said, stop crying. And she said, why? I said, because in shamanism, there's an old saying that says, when someone in the village is sick and the shaman brings them to his hut, the shaman doesn't let everyone come in and see that family. He asks them, what do you see? Mm-hmm. And the person says, oh, I see them. They're so sick. They're so that. You cannot come in.
Absolutely.
You can only come in when you see the truth.
Yes.
And so, I'm getting chills. So
I got a personal story around that too. Yeah.
So what I share with people is that I'm not your teacher. I'm not your guru. I'm just helping you to remember.
Right.
I'm just a memory person, a memory coach. I'm here to help you remember.
I like that. I'm a memory coach.
Right? And I'm here to lay a buffet for you of all kinds of things that you can get into, and you can either eat from the buffet or not eat from the buffet. And I'm not here to be upset with you if you don't eat from the buffet. I have a certain amount of time that I'm here on the planet. I will continue to present this buffet of wonderful things for you to entertain yourself for your own attainment of yourself. Mm-hmm. But I'm not here to direct you. I'm not here to save you. I'm not some Superman. I don't take on that. And I see that a lot in the spiritual community. People are like, I'm here to save the world. I'm here to change the world.
There's so many layers to what you've just said.
Go ahead.
Because the world is an agreement
yes.
of perception and beliefs that actually create the world in which we live in. So we're not here to save that world. We're here to serve the new emergence of that which is unseen right now.
And that's the reason why I come to Agape to listen to you. Because I've traveled the world and I've listened to a lot of people talk. I've met some amazing spiritual leaders, and I just go like, so you're still stuck in duality. You're still believing in this Superman complex,
right,
instead of understanding that we're creating a new world. Heaven on earth is developing a new world. Each of us hold a code to build the bridge to this new world.
Yes.
So all of this thing that you feel you're like going after is actually wasting your energy and time.
Right.
And we have to move into understanding that the unknown becomes known, the invisible becomes tangible through this awareness of creating this new world. And so that's why I sit down with all these people and they go, oh, I'm here, my purpose. They always say, the word I always hear people say, Shaman Durek, what is my purpose? I said, well, your purpose is whatever you want it to be. To maybe you want to wave to someone, maybe hug them, smile, maybe make some food. Well, how can that be my purpose? Well, purpose isn't always about this grand scheme. It's about living.
Yeah. People ask me what I always say. Everyone has the same purpose.
Yeah.
That is to reflect and to reveal the infinite.
Yes.
According to our uniqueness.
Yes.
That's our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then within that purpose, there are certain things that may be my talent, my gift that I need to develop in order to express. But we have the same purpose. Now, you covered a lot of material. First of all, when you went to the Reiki example, and you basically were talking about people have to be prepared for the healing.
Yes.
So that means they're letting go of the worries, the doubts, the fears, the self-recriminations, the self-loathing, the lack of self-love and appreciation. Because if somebody gives you energy, but you're still holding on to a narrative that isn't true, your body's porous. The energy just goes through. You can't hold it. But if you're holding the space for someone and they're coming into a different narrative about themselves and they allow that, then if you exchange energy with them, they don't have a leaky spiritual gut about it, And then I'll tell you a story. In 1984, it was a long time ago. I've been doing a lot of spiritual practice, a lot of great openings. And someone told me about a friend of mine who had been taken sick. And he was a big, strong African-American man. And, so I went to the hospital to visit him. And when I walked into the room, I thought I went to the wrong room. It was an emaciated man. He's very thin. He's very emaciated. And I went out and I said, no, I'm looking for so-and-so. And they said, well, that's him. And I said, I just saw him a few months ago and he was strong. And so I saw this sick person. And so I went home, had to meditate until when I went back, I could see who he really was.
Yes.
But for an instant, I got caught in the hypnotism
Yes,
of his
oh
body.
my God, I love you so much.
Of his body being all emaciated.
Yes.
I said, oh my God, he's sick. What happened? And I said, oh, I'm doing spiritual malpractice. That's what I said to myself. So I went home, I fasted, I meditated. The next time I went, I saw my friend. I saw a spiritual being. I saw this perfect, light, luminous being. And that became a pivotal point in my spiritual practice, not to see sick people.
Yes.
I see who they are.
Yes.
But I had to fall for a minute.
Of course.
Have the experience.
Yes.
And then rise up and hold that particular space. So I understand.
Yeah, that's deep African wisdom.
Yeah.
That is the core of shamanism.
Yeah.
It's the do not be hypnotized
Yeah.
by the disillusionments that people are creating out of their inability to see the profound nature that they are. So when people come to me and go, "Oh, I'm having a hard time making money," I'm like, "That's not what I see."
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is I made a joke about it to a friend. I said, it's like people on the planet are so powerful. They're like wizards going around zapping themselves. And we're literally, when you look at Harry Potter and you have like, they do these spells to go off to stop the spell that's coming that's negative, right?
Right.
Like, like expectrum patronus, like that's what I feel, It's like every time someone says something negative to me, or one of the things that I don't allow is I don't accept people abusing themselves in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I simply say to them, you are loved. What you're saying and doing right now does not support you in who you truly are. So let's look at that. And then they look at it and they're like, oh my God, you're right. And also when it comes to like people, when it comes to shamanism, people go to me, oh, I took this course in Reiki and I learned how to do Reiki and I learned how to do all these things. I said, okay, that's lovely. I said, but what if I told you that you have the full embodiment and the essence of God inside of you that is capable of pulling any energy and any healing energy from any place at any given time, and that you can do more than Reiki. You can do African healing, Hawaiian healing, you can do Maori healing, you can do this, you can do Native American healing, you can do all these things. And so when I show someone that they can access all of those energies
Mm-hmm.
without actually having to study it,
Mm-hmm.
they realize that there's something more, because these people put up these walls and boundaries around spirituality as this kind of, like, I'll give you an example. One woman said to me once in Italy, she said, I'm a very spiritual person, Shaman Durek. I went to India, I did ayahuasca, I do yoga every day. And I said, okay. And I said, and those things constitute spirituality for you? And she said, well, yeah, I'm a very spiritual person, not like my husband. I said, oh. Interesting. So I asked her husband, I said, do you want to evolve? He goes, I love to evolve. Mm-hmm. I said, well, then he is very spiritual.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because people have dialed being a spiritual person down to a yoga class.
Right.
And that's not spiritual to me. Spirituality to me is the willingness to evolve and understand that evolution through the spectrum of love.
Right. And you don't have to even call it spirituality.
Exactly.
You can call it living your life.
Yeah. You can call it living your life. You can call it wuka wuka. You can call it whatever you feel you need to call it. But it's the essence of the intentionality of knowingness, of just being in the awakening of you've been already given permission. And that's what I used to always tell my grandfather, and now he apologizes to me on the other side all the time. But I told my grandfather, I said, how can you tell people these things when the fact that they exist is God's saying yes to them? So what does that mean? He's like, well, boy, you ain't supposed to be asking no questions. You're just supposed to read the Bible and listen to the word of God and do as God says. Well, I said, well, how do you know? I don't know if that God is saying that exactly. I think there are some things in the Bible that has come from love, and I take those pieces out, just like in the Quran, I take those pieces out, but I'm not going to subscribe to the idea that I'm a born sinner,
Right.
right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Start laughing.
It's ironic that we are these great cosmic beings that have shrunk ourselves via our perception just to have the experience of duality and separation. So people will talk to me about the Bible or whatever. And I'm like you. There are parts of it that emanate from love and real inspiration and insight. And there are parts that are history.
Yep.
And there are parts that are just made up.
Yep.
So I say, well, listen, before there was King James, there was Jesus.
Yes.
You know, before there was any scripture on the planet, there was God.
Yes.
God was before all of that.
Yes.
So all of that you're reading came through somebody's mind that then interpreted and wrote it down, and some of it's in alignment, and some of it's just according to their limited perception. So, you know, I'm like Jesus and the rest of the people. I go direct. Just go direct to the presence. And I can be inspired by the scriptures. I can be inspired by holy books. But my thing is just to go direct.
Yes.
Before there was any scripture written, there is the presence.
That's right.
I'd rather go there.
That's where I go.
And then what happens is your poetry and your writings become scripture.
That's right.
Because it's direct from the presence.
Yeah.
I don't belittle any of it.
This is why I love you so much, because this is, you know, when I was a kid, I used to listen to Metallica.
Wow.
And there was this song called Master of Puppets.
Right. Oh, yes.
Right. And I used to write it down the words. And I was looking at the words. I was like, Master of Puppets, they get into your head,
right,
telling you things. And like, I was like, this is what's going on in the world,
right.
You know? And my dad's like, stop listening to that crazy music. I can't believe you lock yourself up in this cabinet and with these big headphones and listen to that nonsense. But it gave me a perspective.
Right.
It gave me an understanding into the consciousness of how human beings, like you said, are being hijacked.
Right, right.
It's the knowledge where people are not going into discernment.
Right.
The discerning, like when I hear a voice in my head say, oh, you're an idiot, you're stupid, it takes my own voice. I go, really? And who are you to say such things to the child of God?
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes, well, I can say whatever I want to say. And I said, well, do you serve the light? And he goes, no. I said, well, you know, I'm going to send you into the light. And I'm going to send you into light until you're fully transformed back into your original form, because I will not accept such nonsense.
Right.
You know, and people go, and I tell woman, she's like, I've been plagued with these negative thoughts. And then I tell her, this is how easy it is to remove it.
Right.
And so, but for me, of course, I get people in the press and the doctors in the world make fun of me. You know, I had like in Norway, they have these, what do they call these big discussions with all the medical community of I'm a quack, I'm crazy. What do you mean that, you know, so I come with this understanding that suffering on our planet comes from an empathic distortion. The empathic distortion is that we're all empathic beings, but some beings are so sensitive that they reflect the suffering of the world through their bodies.
Yes, yes.
So when I was doing all of this research with cancer, with adults with cancer and kids with cancer, every time I spoke to adults with cancer, they would say to me, they have no idea how they got it. When I spoke with kids told me, one kid told me, I said, why do you have, because this is the questions that I have to ask as a shaman, why do you think you have cancer? Mm-hmm. I asked this little boy, and he said to me, because my head is filled with darkness, he said to me. I said, and how did that happen? He said, my father comes home and yells all the time. He's fighting with my mom. He's always upset. He's always angry. And I started noticing my brain turning to darkness. And he drew me a picture of this little light and then this dark head with his body. I asked a kid once, why do you think you have diabetes? He said, well, my father's a doctor, my mom's a doctor, my brother's on the head of the football team, my sister is the head of the cheerleading team. They put so much pressure on me to be like them that one part of my being feels like I can never be like them. And now that I have diabetes, I have an excuse not to be like them.
He knew this.
He knew it.
He just knew it.
They just knew it.
Right.
But when I ask adults, they have
They play hide and seek with it.
They play hide and seek with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I tell people that, and then I get people go, you think kids get sick because they're unhappy. You think this, you think that. I'm like, you know what I am? I am a rebel of consciousness. I am here to challenge new ideas. I'm not here to accept what is just told to me. I don't know if you know, when I was 29, I died in the hospital. I lost my kidneys and went into a 10.6 potassium. And it's just more, and people in prison, they get potassium levels at 7, and that's how they kill them on death row.
Right.
And I had a 10.6. And when I went to the hospital, there was this, my friend took me there, my friend Marcus, and there was this beautiful woman standing there, and she was telling me to let go and not fight this process. And of course, I'm a fighter, so I started fighting, and it was very painful. And I saw my body shutting down. I was screaming, and then I couldn't breathe anymore. And then they'd stuck a hole in my throat and all this stuff. But what happened after, which was so remarkable, was that this liquid, all of a sudden I was in this liquid, and I could see everything and know what was going on with everyone and what they were saying. And my grandmothers were there, and they told me, this next part of your journey is yours to take, but we're with you. And all of a sudden, I was in this darkness, and I saw these lights. And then I saw myself standing in the hospital watching my mother give birth to me while experiencing being birthed. And then I saw every single thing I did in my life and how it affected every single person as a chain reaction.
You had a life review.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then this light came, and it was like through the water. It was like this beautiful light, and it was filled with so much love. And I just knew that that's where I was. And I ended up on this beach. I had no body, and there was this woman, and she said, what type of body would you like to have? And I said, I'd like to have the one I had before. And all of a sudden I had hands, but I didn't feel bones. I didn't feel hot and cold sensations or things on my skin. Everything was warm. It was the most beautiful sensation. I remember going and touching the sand, and it was like music, and the sky was like music. It was like something was just constantly beaming from me. And then she said, would you like to see your family, or would you like us to show you, more? And I went around, and I got to meet this little girl who told me she had died in the war in the Hitler time, and that she chose to be a little girl, and you can choose to be whatever you want to be. And it was like the most amazing place, because it was everyone's idea of heaven as they believed heaven to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I got to see my family, and they asked me, would you like to go back? And I said, yes, I would. And they said, would you like your memories erased this time, or would you like full memory? And I said, I'd like full memory. They said, if you have full memory, do understand that you are now fully aware of this place. And there are parts of you may not want to be on earth anymore because of that awareness.
Right.
And they said, and when you go back, you're going to suffer a lot, but you don't believe in the suffering.
Right.
So I said, I want to go back. So I went to this beach, and there were all these people on the beach, and there were all these beings that were like almost like liquidy, and they called themselves angels. And it was the most beautiful thing. And we walked into this water, and all of a sudden I was flying through space, and I saw other planets, I saw the moons, I saw all kinds of things. And then there was Earth. And it was just so much love. And then I came flying into Earth, and I remember seeing these almost like E.T. beings. They were surrounding me, and they were plugging me back in to these frequencies. And then I was like aware of all of it. And then I heard these high-pitched sounds. And then the doctor, my eyes open, and the doctor was inundating me and shocking my body with these things and pumping me with adrenaline. And I remember the doctor saying, we can't support your life, so we're putting you into a coma. And I remember being in the hospital, people were visiting me. I was walking around as a spirit in the hospital, watching people. And then I came back to my body, and I couldn't speak. I had brain damage. They told me I was never going to walk again. I had brain damage, my kidney failure, my immune system was gone. Like everything was like a mess. And there was these two beings in the room. One was a being going, why did you come back? Why, when you were there? People don't need you here. You need to go back. Why are you here? And then this other spirit was in the room that said, don't listen to that. Listen only to the truth. You can heal your body here. Right. The doctor's coming in the room telling me it doesn't look good. My people coming in the room crying. And finally, one night, Spirit came to me and said, the doctor said, we're going to have to take you off life support. And I could just see everything going on, but I couldn't speak. And they said, we're going to take him off life support and see if he can survive. If not, we have to let him go. And so my dad was talking about making plans for a funeral. And my sister and my friend Melanie was there. And they said, absolutely not. My brother's a shaman. This is not true. This isn't real. This isn't happening. And no, Dad, we're not making plans for a casket and a funeral and so forth. She said, as a matter of fact, I'm taking power of attorney. No one can come in this room anymore with this type of idea. My brother told me about this. This is a shamanic training. This is what it's about. And so she stood by my side every day. And when I finally got the chance to speak, when I was on the other side, I asked the question. I said, why do human beings suffer? Why do we go through pain? Why do we go through war? They said, ask anything you want to ask and we will give you the answer. Do you know they only gave me one answer for everything I asked? And it was malfunction in thinking. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was in that hospital, I didn't believe what the doctors were saying.
Yeah.
Every time that doctor came in, I looked at him and I was just like, I heard a voice say, just tell yourself he's a liar and he knows nothing. He knows not what he says. If that gets you through this. And I just, every time he came in, he was talking and I'd be like, you're a liar. You're a liar. You're a liar. You're a liar.
Right.
And this light told me how to heal my legs. And I was in a wheelchair for 2 years. I healed myself out of that wheelchair and I got rid of my failing liver and my brain damage, and the kidney part has been a constant journey for me. My sister gave me her kidney after she had 3 kids, but it's been such an experience of being here on the planet and seeing and understanding this malfunction in thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. You had a near-life experience. Some people call those near-death.
That's a better way to say it.
If you had you went into life.
Yes.
And you saw that your life had no beginning and doesn't have an end.
Yes.
And you also saw that you could participate in the healing of the body temple, which is genius. The body temple can heal anything under the right condition.
Yes.
So you created the right condition with your putting aside the misguided thoughts and embracing the possibility. So when I hear you speak, you're actually speaking from that awareness of what you saw and felt when you quote unquote died.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a difference of people that have seen that and not. Like when I go places and hear people speak, I can tell you after a few moments whether they know about it or whether they know it. People who've had the awakening or near-life experience, there's a different frequency, For me, when I was stabbed in the heart and died in a lucid dream, when I woke up from it, the beauty and the love, and you can't unsee.
No, you can't.
What you've seen.
No.
So that's why people can come at you with all kinds of craziness.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. The body can't heal itself or whatever. But you already know the truth.
Yes.
It's like a spiritual Teflon.
Yes.
It just kind of bounces off.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story.
Of course.
The personal
of course.
story. Yeah.
This song Mary J. Blige, she sang in this movie, The Help. And it's like, I'm the living proof.
Yeah.
That was my anthem.
Yeah.
Because people say all kinds of things to me and I go, okay. But I was there.
Yeah. I lived it.
I lived it. So I know what happens and I know what's there and I know the love that's present and I know how powerful we are. So whatever you say to me about this hell and this thing and whatever, first of all, you don't even know the airport where hell goes. Like, have you ever been there? Have you taken the flight? Like, does anyone know where this airport is?
He reminded me of, I think it was Dr. Schuller, and they were asking him, why doesn't he ever preach about hell and damnation? He says, I only preach about things I've experienced.
Yes.
He says, I've experienced the love of God. I've experienced overcoming. I've experienced transcending. I've experienced, but I've never experienced hell.
Yes.
If I did, I'd tell you.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to just tell you that because it's in our theology.
Yes.
That would be a hypocrite, So tell us about the giant age.
What
does that mean?
Is
that in your book as well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So the giant age to me is recognizing, and you remember how you said that we dialed down ourselves, we played small to create duality.
Yeah.
So I believe in truth that we're all giants inside of this body.
Yeah.
That we are so big and bigger than this body, bigger than everything that we see and understand, and that the giant age is being able to see that reflection of that giant in the world as you. Where there is no limitation, there is no resistance, there is nothing holding you down, there is nothing holding you back. You are a giant, you are a liberated being, and you are here to reflect God's liberation through you, your words, and everything that you do. And to me, that's the giant.
Right.
You know, and I use those words in my book. I use words that a lot of millennials and Gen Z kids can understand and so forth, because to really give them a vision of something, so they don't see themselves as these small people inside this body, because a lot of people like to play small in their bodies when we're actually giant. And so the giant age is being able to shine your light, your intelligence, your expansive beauty, your ability to express emotional intelligence in a way that just by talking, speaking, and being, you are transcending people away from them to become giants as well. That people, you know, I always say like that you can put a key in front of someone's cage, but they won't use the key to open their cage,
right,
unless you give them the wisdom and the understanding that they understand what that key is.
Right, right.
And that's what I feel, is that we're here to reflect possibility,
yes,
beyond possibility.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why I make so much noise when I come to Agape when you start talking. I'm like, oh, Shay, yes. People think I'm crazy, you know, but I don't care. This woman said to me, oh my God, I want to sit next to you next time. Because I get crazy. Because it's like, it's reaffirming. It's you know, like I said, I've met so many spiritual people and leaders and in different countries and of the world and so forth. But what I love about you is that there is no filter between you and God. Yeah. And when I listen to other people, I feel like it's stuff that they've trained their mind into by someone who told them how to think.
Right, right.
When I listen to you, when people speak to me in sessions or things, whatever, I go, well, let me ask God. They go, what? You're going to ask God? I'm like, yes, I'm going to ask God. And then God will tell me, and then I will give it to you. And if I don't, I'll pray until I get the answer. But I'm not going to go to this mind that's held in duality.
Right.
I'm going to go to the infinite in me that sees all quantum possibilities.
Right.
And that's where I go. And that's what I see in you. When I, you know, from the day that I first met you, I remember, you know, I've been going to Agape off and on for more than 20 years, you know, and I have witnessed every time I listen to you, I see direct. And I look for that in people. Yeah. Because I know there's no filter.
Right.
And therefore, I can then put myself into that space.
You can get the vibration.
And get the vibration, yes. The frequency is pure. Yeah. And I call it source code.
Yeah.
I like source code. I don't like hodgepodge codes. Yeah. I don't like codes that were manipulated and hodgepodge to people's judgments and ideas and constructs that they've created.
Yeah. Going back to what you said before about the giant, you know, it's not that we're in our body. Our body is in our field. Yes. Because our field is infinite.
Yes.
And so when you talk about being a giant, you're talking about the fact that your potential is bigger than any problem. Yeah. When most people are saying, I'm facing this problem. Yes. Rather than saying, that problem is facing a giant.
That's right.
It's a shift of perspective. Thank you. I appreciate what you said about me. Like you know, particularly in the early days, I was the Antichrist. I was the devil. I mean, all of the fundamental churches came after me. You know, if you go to Agape, you're going to go to hell, you know. Yeah. And I said, that's interesting. They believe that? That's interesting.
Yeah, I find it fascinating.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, they told me and Princess Marta that if we stepped into a church, we would catch on fire.
Right. Have you caught on fire yet?
No, so Martha was like, let's get one of those suits that like
asbestos. I mean,
like catch on fire like they did in the Hunger Games movie. Yeah. She goes, just to make it fun, just to be funny, you know, because there's a point where I find the humor in humanity.
Oh my God, we're funny.
Yes.
No, you know, human beings are funny.
Funny.
Cosmic beings shrinking themselves, believing what they believe about reality from the shrunken point of view, suffering, and then trying to change the external world rather than to expand their awareness.
Yes.
It's not ha-ha funny. It's just ironically funny.
It's funny to me.
Once you see it,
yeah,
you can't unsee it.
yeah. Sometimes when I'm with people, I say, let's look at and see the playful drama. So when I see, the drama, it's this whole idea of, I want you to accept me, I want you to see me, I want you to acknowledge me. But what people don't understand is that the issue that they have with life is because they don't feel safe in this world. So they create all kinds of masks and ideas and ways to jingle and jangle and dodge and shift and do all these things, to do these songs and dances so they can feel safe. But if they realize that if they just came into God's love, they're safe.
Right. Yeah, you're not separate from it.
Then you don't have to, you can be your authentic self.
Right.
You can be silly and goofy and all of these things and not be so concerned about what another person thinks.
Right.
And live freely. Like, I took a friend of mine to Agape recently, and she saw you jump, and it just changed everything for her. Just your jump. She saw you jump and do like jumping and things, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, that has."
And those aren't planned movements.
No, I know. I know that, and it changed everything for her.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It shifted her spectrum of understanding, because her upbringing was always in the church, being told this and that. When she saw you jump, she saw your inner child.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, why am I not capable? I can jump too."
Right. You can skip. You can jump. You can laugh. You can do
laugh,
whatever.
You can roll around. You can go smell the flowers. And that's the great thing, is that we get to do those things.
We get to do those things. We've been with Shaman Durek today. Listen, this particular book is called Spirit Hacking. It's beautiful, too. It's a beautiful book. Nice face.
Thank you.
Shamanic Keys to reclaim your personal power, transform yourself, and light up the world. We are the light of the world.
Yes.
And we're not to hide our light under a bushel, not to be fearful, not to be living, being afraid of what other people may think or say about us. We're to think about, as he brought today, what is God thinking about us? What is the universe thinking about us? How are we awesomely created or emerged from the eternal? And through spiritual practice and intentionality, that's what we bump into. Any last words?
My last words are simply, if you don't know, ask God. And it's just, I do it every day. I say, "God, do you love me?" And then you just feel it, you hear it. And that's all you need. You don't need what other people tell you unless it's coming from love. If people speak to you and it comes from love, be open, that is God speaking through them.
Right.
But if you hear something that is not coming from love, that is not God speaking. So go back to that place in you and just say, "God, do you love me?" And just listen. And the more you ask it, the voice will get louder and louder and louder. And everything else will not matter. And then there, you can do anything.
Absolutely. He used the key word, listen. 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 I pray, and I know that you've been listening today and you've been watching on YouTube as well. We want you to have a beautiful day. Become a spiritual hacker. Go direct. Go direct. And watch what happens in your life. Brother Shaman Durek,
Yes.
how can people find you?
People can find me by going to shamandurek.com. I'm on Instagram, TikTok. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Shamandurek.com. You'll get all the information about what he's doing, where he's speaking, what's going on. Peace and blessings, everyone. Continued radical blessings to you. You know by now, for those who are veterans to the Take Back Your Mind podcast, we always have a few moments of sacred silence, a few moments of meditation, paying attention to that which is real. Meditation is fundamental to awakening and taking back your mind, so that your mind is not curated by the world's conditions and circumstances. Eventually, your mindscape becomes clean and clear. The facilitation of your awareness becomes focused on expansion rather than being caught up in the eddies of the suffering of the human experience. So meditation is very important. We just had Shaman Durek. He was living with the question of, God, do you love me? We're going to go into a meditation in which you're simply going to ask, am I loved? That's going to be the entry point. And you're going to begin to open yourself up to that, to ultimately you will feel and you will hear that you are indeed loved by the entirety of the presence. It will clean away all of the many, I'm talking about M-I-N-I, many, and M-A-N-Y, many thoughts and voices that would tell you that you're unlovable, that you're not good enough, you're unworthy. So put your hands on your lap, facing upward as a sign of receptivity, thumb, forefinger touching as a mudra of transcending ego perception so that the immanence of the presence can be right here and right now. We close our eyes, become still, silent. Just ask this question. First, we're going to ask, am I loved? Am I loved? Just be with that question for a moment and see what bubbles up. The ego of perception may say no, but eventually you'll feel or hear the vibration of the universal presence through the infinite universal law saying, yes, you are my beloved, and who I am well pleased. Yes, you are loved. Ask, am I loved? Am I loved? Do I matter to the universal scheme of things? Do I have something to contribute? Do I have a gift to share? Am I loved? Do I matter? Do I have something to contribute? And it is from this awareness that the vibration of these answers to these questions move through us. We are totally loved by a presence that is love itself. This presence that we've emerged from does not make mistakes. And so we matter. And we're full to overflowing with infinite potential. So we have so much to contribute. This becomes the feeling tone of our life. We are loved, we matter, we have something to contribute. This shapes our destiny to catch vision, possibility, and activate potential. This is what I am feeling, and from the depths of my being, this is the cellular logos that I'm speaking into existence for all of us. We're loved, we matter, we have something to contribute. We allow the God times to roll. And so it is. Amen. As we open our eyes, we feel the magnificence of light moving through us. And we go forth this day, and we allow this day to be amazing. And so it is. Have a beautiful day. I appreciate your letters and emails that you've been sending in, not only for the life question of the week at podcast@michaelbeckwith.com, but also the notes you're sending on the Instagram and on the website, thanking me for Take Back Your Mind. And I thank you for your support. As I've said before, if you want to support Take Back Your Mind, support the sponsors. The main sponsor is the Agape International Spiritual Center, agapelive.com. We have a Facebook presentation, an Instagram presentation, a YouTube presentation, and a website presentation. You can donate to the sponsor at agapelive.com. It's one way that you can donate. It supports the podcast. Second sponsor is Nutrarise.com. You go to Nutrarise.com, those three lines up at the top, you touch that line, and you'll get Adaptogen. Adaptogen are my products. The Super Green Superfood Greens and the vitamin D3, K2. Both extremely good for your health, your nutrition. You support the sponsors, you're supporting the podcast. Have a beautiful, and as I like to say, a bright day, luminous day, because you are a luminous being. Peace and blessings. Your time is very valuable, so I want to thank you for lending us your ear and participating in taking back your mind. If you want to submit a question for the question of the week, please submit it to podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please submit a review and let us know your thoughts. Stay on top of current episodes by subscribing to the podcast so that you'll receive alerts and not miss one single episode. And feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And until we meet again, take back your mind, and you will take back your life. Peace and blessings.